Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the Kid Lit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of Kid Lit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Kid Lit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your Kid Lit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Alyssa Satin Capucilli. Alyssa is the best-selling and award-winning author of the iconic and well-loved Biscuit series, with more than 54 million copies sold worldwide. She's here today to celebrate its 30th anniversary with her newest book, Biscuit Rides the Ferry. With over 100 books in the series translated into 12 different languages, there is a Biscuit book for everyone, including this newest. I can't wait to talk all about the special series with her, so let's get right to the episode. Alyssa, welcome to Kid Lit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be with you today.
As I said before we hit record, this feels like a bookish dream come true for me. I have been an elementary teacher, a reading specialist, a reading coach, a mom, and I know firsthand just how well Biscuit grows readers. So I am just beyond excited to talk with you today. But you are bigger than Biscuit, so I would love a chance for you to tell us a bit about you and the journey that brought you in this road with Biscuit and outside of Biscuit to the book you're releasing today.
I have to say that ever since I was a young girl, I was a storyteller in one way or another. The public library was a big part of my life. I
Mhm.
went every week with my mother, my sisters. We came home, we played library. So reading books, stories was ever present. I actually grew up first to be a professional dancer, even though I wrote all the time. And dancing and teaching dance to young children has definitely impacted my writing and has also created some of my favorite characters, such as Katie Duck, the duck who loves to dance. But my journey to writing, I think, really began when I had children of my own.
Yeah.
I began revisiting literature that I loved. And in particular, one evening when I was home with my daughter, she invited a very large dog to come to our house for a sleepover. And being a puppy lover, of course, I said yes. And it was such an interesting night because first I watched her offer a bedtime snack, a drink, a blanket, a doll, a bedtime story to this large dog. And of course, the dog ran everywhere.
Mhm.
But then two things happened. As I was watching her, I realized she was having a conversation with the dog, and she thought the dog understood every word she said.
Yeah.
And that brought me back to my childhood bedroom and Henry and Ribsy by Beverly Cleary in
Mhm.
particular. I read and reread that book all the time, and Henry became my soulmate. And I often felt like there was no one in the world who wanted a dog as much as I did, except for Henry. And when he finally carried that dog home in a big cardboard box, it was not only Henry's victory, but it was also my own.
Yeah.
So there was that confluence of myself as a young child, as a reader, as a mom, as an observer, and that really started the very beginning of the first book about Biscuit.
Wow. I just love the idea of a bookish soulmate. As a reader, right? We could all think of those characters who didn't feel like characters, but truly felt like they were in our own lives there with us through it all. And even as an adult, I can think back to those characters as a child, and even some of the characters I read about in my adult life feel so real, like they are there for a reason. So I just love that bookish soulmates. I'm going to be thinking about that a lot today. That's brilliant.
I think it's key.
Yes.
I think it's
Yeah.
key to our reading lives, honestly.
So that was the beginning of Biscuit. We've got 100 books in the Biscuit series. You have 50 books outside of the Biscuit series that you have continued to write. How did you go from that first book to just this prolific, beautiful, wide, far-reaching career of writing for kids? Tell me
You're
like
so
the dominoes that fall.
you're so kind. Um, I love early childhood in particular,
Hmm.
and I feel like it's the most celebratory time of life.
Yeah.
Whether we're celebrating a first smile, a first tooth, a first step, being part of a child's first independent reading experience is kind of the most magnificent celebration of all. But I did start with the one book about Biscuit. And at the time that I wrote it, it was a conversation, it was a lullaby, it was just one book, was my intention. The book happened to fall across the desk of HarperCollins, and they were just starting the seeds of beginning the My First I Can Read
Hmm.
series. And Biscuit happened to launch that. We went on to another book and another book, slowly but surely. There was no social media, it became a
Right.
word of mouth book. And over this period of 30 years, we've grown. And as you have so lovely that you mentioned, we have really grown into reaching out to many, many, many people in
Yeah.
many, many places, which is amazing. Not sure I have words for that, honestly.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I can't imagine, but I can imagine just how big and how that could feel on the inside to know that your work, your creation, your words have just touched millions of people, of kids, of caregivers. It's just it's got to be mind-boggling in the most wonderful way.
It is, and I try not to think about that in some way because I really am very much concentrated on the work
Yeah,
and on the world that I create.
yeah,
And I think that's true for all of the books that I write.
yeah.
Each character has their own world, their own community. And those are the things that I think about no matter what I'm writing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up this idea that the Biscuit series could be the first independent reading experience that they've had because, on this podcast we talk about the beauty of picture books, we talk about the magic of middle grade, but there is this very special kind of magic that happens in those early books where kids realize, oh, I can do this. I can read this. I can access this. I can do this for myself. And as you mentioned, that is, it's magic really is the right word, I think, as I've seen it so many times. Kids just come
Right.
to life in that experience. And so Biscuit just provides that very unique everything, to a reader. But I imagine as a writer, right, you have these beautiful stories that evoke so much in the reader, yet you do have to rein in the number of words and the kind of words and the way that you write. So I was hoping you might talk about that process of, you know, having this book idea in your mind and bringing it to life, but as an early reader, I imagine is a bit different than if it were something else. And how does that work in your mind when you set out to write a biscuit book?
It's interesting. The first one I wrote just as a picture book. It happened to have the repetition, the patterning, the illustratable moments
Hmm.
that made it work well as the first I can read. Um, I overwrite. I write my story, and it can be big and it can be wild and it can be without any bounds. And then I pare down a bit. I think about sometimes the words. I don't count words, I don't count lines, I don't count characters, especially with Biscuit. But I really, really try to concentrate on the story because I truly, truly believe that when a child is empowered to read, first and foremost, they then can explore myriad worlds.
Hmm.
And if they connect to the character and the character can take them on that journey, they can experience so many things and explore information. They can let that story resonate within themselves for their own use, of course. So for me, it's almost very natural to write for this age group. I literally hear a child reading as I write. I
Hmm.
write longhand. I sit down with pen and paper, and I just have a sense, I think, of when I need to say, we have maybe too many adjectives in here. Let's pare it down. How will the character look? How will it be illustrated? Then I do count on some of my other books for more explosive and more language as well. So I'm very dedicated to the world of Biscuit. And when I went past the first book, I said, no matter what the subject and no matter what the setting, I want readers to return to this very gentle world, this world that's filled with kindness and empathy and compassion and even responsibility. Of course, I don't think that of that every time I sit down to write, but I often find when I look back at a story I have written, there's something in that story that I think connects a reader to their actions, that lets young children know that even though you're small, your actions can be big. You can return a duck to a pond. You can help a neighbor feed their pet. Those are sort of metaphors for what else we can do in this world, no matter how small we may be or how
Hmm.
young we may be.
That really is the beauty of Biscuit. Oh, yes. I love how you have phrased that. Which brings me to the newest Biscuit book. We have Biscuit Rides the Ferry.
Yes.
So how do you 100 books after the other decide what Biscuit might do next?
Well, this one I will be completely honest and say that my grandchildren came to visit me. I live outside of New York City, and they are quite a distance away. And I said, we're going to do something very New York City today. We're going to get on a ferry and we're going to visit the Statue of Liberty. And that's
Mm.
what we did. So, of course, the idea of bringing Biscuit along is always secondary to me. I'd love him along with whatever I enjoy doing. And my editor actually felt we could do the ferry and that would be wonderful, but perhaps not only a New York City setting. So readers will see that it is a bit broader. We are on the sea. We do meet the captain. We do meet the seagulls,
Yeah.
of course. And Biscuit finds plenty of new friends to frolic with
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. It's this, childhood simplicity and joy and love and learning and curiosity all just wrapped up into the book. And the illustrations, right? I want to make sure we're bringing these up because you've been
Yes,
working with the same illustrator for all of the Biscuit books, correct?
correct.
Wow. Wow. How did that partnership come to be and how has that evolved over time?
I'll tell you how we met first and foremost because it actually informs the very first book that I wrote. I went to a critique group one evening, as I did every month, and someone new attended. And she said, "My name is Pat Shores, and my newest book that I'm working on is titled Biscuit." And I looked over and I said, "That's my book." And literally, that
Wow.
is how we met.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
yeah, the editors selected Pat because of some of her other work. And I quickly learned, and this is different for every author illustrator relationship, that Pat likes to come fresh to a manuscript. And because I work about at least 6 months ahead of her, because the words always come first and then she gets it, I actually was always very, very careful not to say, "Oh, Pat, I'm working on this now," because she might be working on something else. And I didn't really want to influence that in any way. The other thing that is so wonderful about working for this many years together is that number one, we have a very, very similar, I'm going to say, ideology about early childhood.
Hmm.
We both believe in a somewhat unhurried life, a simple life filled with joy. And I also learned that rather than tell Pat the little girl should be wearing purple sneakers and a pink shirt, it was best if I left decisions up to her.
Hmm.
Even at times, if a character didn't look exactly as I had envisioned, it became a character that I loved because we both got to share and use our own imagination. Now, the very first book, there is a little girl character who takes good care of Biscuit, not only in the first book, she's now endured 210 years, dog years, of course, without a name. And that is because even though I was thinking of my own daughter, when Pat received that manuscript, nowhere did it say that that character was a little girl. I did not name her because to me she was any child,
Hmm.
every child. And Pat just happened to draw the character as a little girl. Hence, she remains nameless, and any child can name her or himself as the person who takes beautiful care of that puppy.
Yes. And that is from experience exactly what happens. They truly just become part of that book, and Biscuit is ours. Whoever is reading it with me, Biscuit is ours. As you look back on the 30 years that you have been creating Biscuit and certainly other books as well, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question, but I want to ask it anyway and ask, is there like a favorite part of the journey or something that stands out to you that is just like, oh, when you look back, you think, thank goodness for that as you reflect.
There are a lot of beautiful moments.
Yeah.
I get letters that are amazing and touching. Um, I visit schools quite often. I do many book festivals, and when people come up to you with a shared story or a shared experience, or share with me how meaningful a book was in their life, I'd like to say it's humbling, but it's more than that. It's just, I'm welcomed into someone else's life and they have welcomed my character into their life. On a lighter note, when I wrote Biscuit Visits the Big City, I visited a rural school in the Midwest. And I walked into the school and I was welcomed with a city made of cardboard and a lot of aluminum foil. And not only was there that, but they also created a hot dog cart. If you've not read the book, that's a spoiler alert. However, it was magical to
Wow.
see what educators and children do when they truly embrace a story.
Yeah.
So that's been a highlight. I pen pal often. There's always someone at the start of the school year who is connected through a reading specialist. And we just share that story on so many levels. So gratifying, yes. Humbling, yes. Pinch myself, absolutely.
All the things, all the
All
feels.
the things. I have to think that whether as a reader you connect with Biscuit or the little girl or another character in the story and you go on that journey with them, it's something I've done as a young child. It's definitely something I've done as a dancer and now as a writer. And it's wonderful to share that with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. When you think about all that you have written, and of course the books that are still yet to come, which we'll get to in a moment, what is your hope for these books or your hope for readers who get these books into their hands?
I hope, um, well, a few things actually. I
Mhm.
hope that these stories can help readers navigate emotions, feelings. I hope that they can learn about experiences they may not have themselves.
Mhm.
And I do feel that if they can experience these things, the gentleness, the kindness, the compassion, the empathy, we share something bigger than a story. We share a humanity and we share the fabric of being human. What I love so much is that young children move so fluidly between the everyday world and the imagined world.
Mhm.
And I think most of my books offer a chance to really use your imagination. Even those woof woofs, it's not just a word.
Yeah.
It's an actual invitation to my reader to
Yeah.
say, what what do those words mean?
Yeah.
Do they mean the ball fell in the mud and I'm going in, which means I'm also coming out? Does the woof mean I have a baby too who's crying loudly and it's hurting my ears, and Biscuit is reacting the same way? That must be okay.
Yeah.
So I like to think that readers take the books, let them really become part of their own imagination, and that they sustain and nourish their imagination, much the way I was as a reader.
Yeah. That is the beauty of books right there. It's what happens when the reader interacts with the book and the author, and that just
It's a
magical
confluence.
alchemy happens. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's a confluence of time and space and experience,
yeah,
and how wonderful that we can meet there.
that's right. Oh. Now, thankfully, you've written over 150 books and you're not stopping.
I'm
So
not stopping.
can you tell us a little bit about what might still be coming for you? Give us a sneak peek.
Sure. Well, definitely, there's more Biscuit to come. We have several new titles coming this year. You mentioned Biscuit Rides the Ferry. We're also going to have a compilation of 5 puppy tales, which I think
Mhm.
will be a lot of fun for our friends who like bookmarks and thicker books. So that's
Great.
always fun. I have a brand new character. Her name is Goose, and the title of the book is My Sister Goose. It's due out in April and it's illustrated by the magical Heiwan Yum. So I'm very excited about that. And that book in particular is about 2 sisters, and one of them loves to dress up, loves to pretend, loves costume, which I can honestly say has always been very, very big in my home.
Mhm.
And now I'm watching my grandchildren follow the tradition.
Yep.
And sometimes, though, you can't wear, I'll give you an example. Goose might want to wear her bathing suit to school, or she might want to wear her dress-up shoes to the playground.
Mm.
And her sister Miranda sort of always comes up with a solution and a choice for Goose. So once again, I revisit that period of autonomy, of independence, of creativity, and how do we nurture all of the above
Mm.
while still making safe choices for a young child or helping a young child make those choices too.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. That sounds a lot like my own daughter, who happens to be named Miranda. So I will be
Oh,
getting that book next.
that's great.
Oh, well, I'm glad there's more to come. I'd love to ask you to share where the best place to find you online is so that listeners can keep up with these books and, of course, find out more of that big, beautiful backlist as well.
Sure. My website, my newly refurbished website is www.alyssasatincapucilli.com. And I am also on Instagram and I am also on Facebook. My website in particular has loads and loads of wonderful activities and color-ins and word searches and word games. So I hope you'll visit and download those for yourselves.
Yes. Well, I will make sure to put links to your website, to Instagram, into the show notes, and of course, links to the books that we've talked about as well to make it easy for readers to get them into their hands. And I just want to end with another big thank you. Thank you, yes, for coming here, but just the writing you've done, the way that you have impacted so many young readers everywhere. I've gotten to see it firsthand, and I'm just so grateful for the work that you do and for coming here.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I will now in turn thank you for all you do to bring books to life for readers everywhere. It's really beautiful, and I so appreciate being part of today for you.
Oh, thank you so much. And
Okay.
listeners, we're going to thank you too. Thank you for listening to another episode of Kidlit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Kid Lit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find Kid Lit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly Kid Lit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of kid lit love. Thanks for listening.